Okay, I don't think I'm gonna actually use this one. I think I'm gonna probably do it the next take for this. Okay. So anyways, I think the idea I'm trying to get across is how framing, how there's this interesting way that narratives can function on social media platforms. For example, the way that you can tell that I actually filmed this video using Snapchat. That frames this piece of media in a very interesting way because it's very overtly something that's unprofessional. It's not. It makes me lose some credibility as a narrator. Second, you'll know. But what I find most interesting is, as a way of creating art, social media is very powerful in its imperfections. For example, if you see this whole ramble that I'm doing right now, you'll notice a few things that I can create by the spontaneity of social media. You see, I'm not really planning this out. It's unscripted. And there are flaws. Like, for example, the fact that I'll keep on rambling on and on and on to the point where eventually I run out of the Snapchat video. And when I run out of the Snapchat video, it'll just cut me off in the middle of my sentence. Now, normally, if I was to make a film, now if you're seeing this, you're seeing it on one of two platforms, either Snapchat or YouTube. And maybe it won't even be on YouTube, because I haven't decided yet if I'm going to edit it. But the point is, as someone who's editing the raw Snapchat video of me rambling and evidently pacing in my room, now I have the decision of whether to post it. Now I'm periodically just posting it to my Snapchat story, so it's being broadcast that way. But I know I don't have a particularly big Snapchat audience, so it's fairly low stakes. However, the question is, if I put it on a more public platform, like Facebook or Twitter, the disclosures I make are put under a little bit more scrutiny because it's more public. So the fact that I'm pacing like this, the fact that authorial intent is framed very differently on social media than it is in more traditional media. Because authorial intent in social media is constantly evolving because the author has two intended audiences you can interpret. You can interpret it by its intent to the initial audience that the author assumed that it would reach, or do you assume based on the audience that it gets? Because filming this right now, I would just assume if I was to post it just on Snapchat that maybe one or two people would see it. Because I don't have that many Snapchat friends and not everybody looks at their story. But if I put it on YouTube...
Social media is my life.
But what I'm trying to get across is that media, on social media as a method of communication, is very fascinating because the way that something is shared, the way that something is expressed through social media, if I retweet something that's a horrible tweet, and don't provide any context for it, people might assume that my retweeting it is an endorsement. However, if I add a comment at the top where I say, "No, Donald Trump, you are an idiot," then that frames it an entirely different way.
Social media is my life.
The point that I'm trying to make is how we edit content for social media has so many different implications, because as a work of art, we have to recognize that unlike something like a book or a movie, where we can assume that the creator, generally we can assume that the creator intended this work for a broad audience. However, what's interesting is the authorial intent is very much inherently stuck in a very particular time. However, with social media, that's very different. So but the point is, editing on social media really frames your piece, because it makes you sound, it can be the difference between sounding crazy and not crazy, how I edit this. And what I'm doing is I'm being more vulnerable, and I'm not editing it. So both on Snapchat and on Facebook and on YouTube, no edits. No intentional edits other than the ones mandated by Snapchat. Snapchat's gay. But I mean that as high praise. I mean that as high praise that Snapchat is gay, just to clarify. But anyways, gay. Gay like, never mind. Not gonna say his name. Not gonna say his name. Don't say the name of the Rat King. Don't say the name of the rat. Is it professional for me to be seen by the world without makeup, for example? Because that's certain vulnerability. I actually usually, before I go out, I completely shave. I completely want to embody the role of a woman, in a sense. So audience is framed very differently on social media. Do I have an obligation to pass for my own safety? Now, of course, I don't believe anybody has an obligation to pass for their own safety, because you should be able to be safe no matter what. But there's an interesting aspect of this that's vulnerability. It's very vulnerable, and I not knowing how well I pass right now, because another frame that we have to consider when consuming content on social media is vulnerability. Now, different people have different media presences on social media. Some are very, very, very reserved and restrained, because those people are assuming that their audience is the world, including their boss and people in power. However, the intended audience of a work completely evolves when it's just intended as an audience to your close friends. So it's vulnerability. How close do we let strangers get to us? That's, I think, that really summarizes what I'm getting at right now. How close do we want strangers to get to us? Do we want them to see us? Another interesting thing about social media is continuity. For example, when I'm posting it to Snapchat, people are seeing these as short clips, and they may join in at any point on the story and really focus on something out of context. So that's an interesting thing. Context is really difficult on the internet. Context is so fucking difficult, because, again, if you see this as a long, rambling Facebook post, it's very different than if you see one tweet out of a whole tweet thread. The authorial intent becomes very, very very warped because potentially, for example, if I have a tweet thread where I say, it actually demonstrates the framing of a content warning, how content warning and where it's placed, if it's placed to actually be a content warning that actually prevents you from seeing the content, or if it's meant to be a content warning that kind of softens the blow after you've seen the content, which kind of may or may not help actually, but most likely not, if you need a content warning. So it's kind of like the question about, ooh, I spurred, content warning, PG, rude humor. Oh my god, gatekeeping and social media. That's a whole different topic that I'm not going to go into. Okay, but anyways, the conclusion to my very serious rant was, if you see me in public after this crazy social media rant, will you see me as, because outtakes are generally considered very unprofessional if it's right before you say like the conclusion to your to your thing. I almost forgot it. So editing. I'm not gonna edit these, which means that they're going to sound crazy. Oh my god! What's really scary is that I don't even want to say his name, but I'm weirdly like modeling this video off of like a horrible person. So that makes me think like, am I like that person? Am I a horrible person because I'm sounding like them right now? Yikes. But this is kind of a performance style that I saw exemplified in a particular YouTube vlogger whom I'm not going to say because it's so loaded and I can't even go into the whole explanation. And how are you going to treat me? The point I'm trying to make is framing and social media as like analyzed as media literature. If you see me in public, hesitation, social media, that's another thing. Okay, but if you see me in public, will you see me as a woman or will you see me as a tranny? What's allowed on social media that's not allowed in real life? How reckless is this video right now? Is it life or death? Now that seems like an exaggeration, but it's actually not. It's literal. Because people fucking get killed for things they post on social media. It's very possible. We would like it not to be, but if I post something on social media and I'm the wrong person, I'm a person who's more likely to get targeted. You know, if I'm trans, if I'm a person of color, if I'm a woman, you know, there's more vulnerability. There's vulnerability that comes from not being able to pass. I'm more likely to be a target of violence if I'm a trans woman who doesn't. Posting on social media is a form of acting. It's performance. Social media is always a performance. So, for example, if I title this video a few different things, if I say, if I title this video Ariel, woman or tranny, if I title it, this tweet is a performance, hashtag, and they're posted on several different platforms, so they're completely framed in different ways each time I repost it. This is about compulsive social media posting. That's what it's really about. It's about compulsivity and social media as an addiction. Social media as an addiction. But do-do-do-boo-boo.